Waiting for the little sound. I've not had it yet.
I think it's recording now.
I've still not had the bing.
I heard it.
Maybe it only goes when everyone's had it or something. I don't know. There we go. Hello everyone, welcome to the cert-manager bi-weekly development meeting. It's the 4th of May, Star Wars Day on 2022. It's 5 p.m. London time, and we've got a pretty light agenda today, so I suspect this will be a pretty short meeting. In the call, we have 4 of the usual JetStack people, all cert-manager maintainers, and I'm going to try your name, Je Chang. Nice to have you here as well. I believe you're at Google Summer of Docs. Please go ahead. Maybe having some.
Hey.
How should I say your name?
My name is Chen Zhe.
Cheng Zhe.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, I'll kick us off. We have only the single item on the agenda today, which is coming out of our stand-up this morning, where we discussed whether we might wish to delay cert-manager 1.9. Jake raised this, but he can't make it to this meeting, so I'm raising it on his behalf. I actually think we came to a bit of a consensus in the stand-up, maybe to not do this. I suppose it's open to the floor if anyone wants to advocate for a delay. For me, the reason that I was initially positive towards the idea of delaying the release is that KubeCon is going to take a week or two out of our time for this release. So we'll actually only have like a month and a half for the development cycle rather than having 2 months as we usually do, because of KubeCon. Essentially, it's kind of an enforced holiday for everyone in some ways, right? Not that all development work will stop, but it will slow down. But yeah, I certainly don't feel strongly, and the release process was actually quite smooth once we got through to the end of it for 1.8, so there's no reason we can't just do 1.9 and all will be good. It seems reasonable. Does anyone have any strong feelings on the matter one way or another, or any feelings at all?
I mean, so I think always thought it's kind of said that I think there isn't that much value in like set release dates. Like I feel like, but I think like the reason why we would delay is not that much the effort that it takes for us to release, but more whether there's any user value in what we actually release. Because when we make a new release, obviously we are going to deprecate the previous release, so there will be some effort required from users to upgrade, because I guess you don't really automate bumping minor releases, you like can automate bumping patch releases. So I think it's like user value versus what is actually in the release as opposed to effort taken from us.
So your concern is around churn for end users?
Yeah, exactly.
I agree with that. I suppose for me, in the absence of the current policy is to release every 2 months, and I think without a competing proposal, I guess I'm minded to sticking to what we have as a policy today. But I tend to agree that I think if we all thought there wasn't much in a release, there would be cause to delay it, or have a policy that says, well, we won't do the release until we have something in it because of that, like to avoid churn and avoid publishing releases that don't have much in. Although it's hard.
I think I would.
Sorry.
Latency.
Please go on.
Cool. I mean, I would then argue that it would maybe make sense to change the policy. Like, I don't think that anyone really cares about us releasing on a particular day. I feel like maybe if there was a policy that says we release, I don't know, every 3 months, and the period within which we release is, I don't know, 1 month or something like that, or like 2 weeks, as opposed to saying that we'll release on like, I don't know, 6th of June. I don't think there's much user value in having like a set date like that.
I imagined, after we talked about it this morning, I'm not sure whether this is realistic or not, but if I was a sysadmin or cluster administrator trying to plan the upgrades to all my infrastructure, I might look at the Kubernetes release schedule, and I imagine that cert-manager and all the other Kubernetes add-ons kind of do release sometime shortly after each Kubernetes release. So and this is all imaginary, do people sort of say, well, Kubernetes is being released on May the 4th. 2 weeks later, we can expect all the add-ons that we care about to have been tested with that Kubernetes release, updated all their Kubernetes library dependencies, and so let's look at the release schedule of cert-manager and check that it is going to be released, and let's look at the release schedule of Istio and check that it's going to be released around the same time. Bundle all of those changes up and do all of those infrastructure changes in one go. But that's just me imagining how they might plan these things.
I don't think that's realistically the case, because I think like people care about relevant changes. Like, for example, we are going to probably support Kubernetes 1.24 and cert-manager 1.8 just because there aren't any changes relevant to us that we would expect to break. And I mean, Kubernetes is getting more mature, so I guess like everyone else also will not really expect it to break like that.
Feels like we don't really have much knowledge or data in order to take any sort of decision. In the past, I've been pushing for a fixed state, but I'm not using any, I don't have any proof that anyone cares. So, but I agree, Richard, your idea, like the fact that the Kubernetes release date is like the operations people do care about this, and they tend to, I don't know, maybe schedule, I don't know. Yeah, and how often does Kubernetes release now? Is it twice a year or 3 times a year? Is it twice? Or maybe every... So perhaps we could talk about releasing on the same schedule as Kubernetes itself.
But no one in production runs like latest version of Kubernetes, I imagine. Like, I don't think anybody does that. I don't think that anyone goes and looks at Kubernetes 1.24 release and immediately deploys to their production clusters. I imagine that people either use managed Kubernetes where they wait for GKE to come out to issue it in stable channel, or they look for, all the bugs being discovered. Like,
but even if they're not using the latest Kubernetes, they will follow the cadence of the Kubernetes release, I would have thought. So they will upgrade when the latest Kubernetes comes out. They will upgrade to the last version of Kubernetes, perhaps. Or at least that's when the last version of the Kubernetes might be released in the stable channel. Anyway, I'm just guessing, but I do think there's value in having a release schedule, but I think it's worth talking about releasing less frequently.
Here's a
and
survey.
in Kubernetes.
Shouldn't we? This type of question is like, I would be happy to ask actual people using cert-manager how they feel. Maybe they don't care.
Yeah,
maybe they do, but I don't know.
I wonder if we can do like a poll in Slack and just have a couple of options in there for people. I suspect most people don't care, but it'd be interesting to find out.
I know it's different, but the user survey is going on right now. Do you know which questions have been asked in this survey? Is it like a fixed something the CNCF asks us to do?
I think that's a
And
JetStack thing. I think you probably need to speak to someone in JetStack for that. I don't think that's relevant to the cert manager open source sphere.
but it has been done for the CNCF incubation, right? So it is
I'm not
meant.
sure. I'm not sure if it's officially for this incubation. You'd have to check.
At the top of the user survey, it says it's for the CNCF incubation.
Yeah.
No, maybe I'm wrong. I'll check.
Fair enough.
But yeah, the Slack thing is a good idea.
Yeah.
Or an email.
I feel like the barrier to replying on a Slack poll is a lot lower than email. Like, if we try and get as many responses as we can, but
Oh yeah.
it doesn't
Or
matter.
an email with a poll, a link to a poll.
Does anyone have any interest in creating a poll like that? Or something of getting feedback on this from people?
I am interested. Could it tie in mail with the stuff we're doing for this Google season of docs? We are going to ask users about how they use cert-manager, I think. So perhaps we can see if we can if part of that season of docs project is some sort of survey or questionnaire, then perhaps we could include a question about the frequency of releases, how people upgrade cert-manager.
That's probably a question I could ask internally as well, because we have a lot of. I can actually do that.
I suppose there's a possibility then that this gets kicked down the can gets kicked down the road a little bit on this. If it's tied to the Google season of docs, I assume that would take a bit longer to do, would it? I don't know what the time frame is like for that.
Well, it's kicking off. It's starting in a week's time, so it won't be. If we do it as part of the season of docs, it won't take too long.
Oh, so maybe we can check in on it on the next bi-weekly meeting and see how it's going.
Yeah.
One small thing I've been thinking on as we've been discussing this is like the easiest possible change we could make, I think, is just change our release frequency from 2 months to 3, because that gives us a bit of extra time and is really small and doesn't involve us doing much, right? And our last few releases have been a little light on features, so maybe 3 months would give us a little bit more time to get stuff in.
Yeah, and then it's like a trimester. How do you say? 3 months. It's not quarterly. Yeah, quarterly. It's like a quarterly thing. It's easy to remember. There's one every 3 months.
Yeah.
In the user survey, which seems really focused on some questions are maybe for JetStack's benefit, but some of them are community oriented. And one of them is, are you using the latest version of cert-manager? So the next question I would like to ask is, if you do not use the latest version, how do you feel about the release cadence? Or I don't know, something like this. And it would probably require an open text box, because I want to see answers, like specifically when people don't like or something like this. I will reach out to Richard Collins just to know whether it makes sense to add this.
For context, for anyone watching the video, Richard Collins is JetStack internal. He's not related to the cert-manager project.
Oh yeah, sorry, but yeah, he's the one who pushed for this user survey.
Yeah,
and it is.
He posted that survey in the cert-manager channel on Slack, didn't he?
Yeah, it's public right now, so anyone from the community can check it out and do the survey.
Cool.
But so do we like, I mean, this is about whether we want to change the policy, but we still had the particular case of whether we want to release the next cert-manager sooner or later. Do we like first decide this and then that, or because I think it would be better if it sooner came to a decision whether we want to delay.
If
our planning and stuff.
I would propose that we change to a 3-month release cycle and make 1.9 delay 1.9 by a month to match what would then become a 3-month release from the release of 1.8. If I think that's the smallest thing to do and would work, but then certainly for us at JetStack, there are planning concerns in terms of engineer allocation to the cert-manager open source project that we'd have to discuss. I don't know if we could do that unilaterally today, but that seems like a small and easy thing to do just to get started and then maybe tweak it again down the road. But
yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to agree to put it off for months, even if we end up not putting like releasing the next 1.10 in 2 months after 1.9.
it's tricky because we've not got everyone here to discuss it. I imagine Joachim would have some thoughts on this. It's a shame he couldn't make it. I tell you what, maybe unless anyone is strongly opposed in this call, maybe I'll suggest on cert-manager dev and the JetStack cert-manager channel that we change to a 3-month release cycle and delay 1.9 to match that as the smallest thing we can do, and then further discussion can happen there. Because actually, I don't think we can reach a decision in this call without people like Joachim in the conversation, because it will impact JetStack time, given that many of the maintainers are at JetStack. Does that sound reasonable?
That makes sense,
yeah.
I guess.
Richard?
Then I guess it would match the Kubernetes release cycle, actually, so we would be able to release 1.9 when, I guess. Or no, that's not going to be the case. Yeah, because Kubernetes does release every 3 months, but we are now skewed, so probably we would want them to benefit from that. We would actually want to align it. Or no, Kubernetes is every 4 months now, because they changed it, right?
Yeah, it's been over 4 months since 1.23 came out, right?
Yeah, so they're okay. So we won't match anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, there's an interesting discussion topic on Kubernetes versions in and of itself, where like this could be a thing that I could have put into the document anyway. Is our supported releases, like what we have written in the page at the moment, which is here, is essentially me just sort of going YOLO and guessing it when I was updating the page. And it's kind of very loosely based on what cloud providers currently support, which is documented further down the page. There's not really much more into it than that. Like I wrote, in practice, this is largely determined on what versions of Kind are available for testing cert-manager with. That's not a hard like blocker on what we do, but like it's kind of roughly what we do in terms of how we support the latest version and everything. It's very up in the air. I'm not really sure what I'm saying, but like maybe if we formalize that a bit more, it becomes more obvious when we want to release. Maybe we do tie it to cloud providers if that's what most people use or something. But I don't think we're going to shave that yak today either, to be fair. So yeah, I will take it as an action for myself to go and propose a 3-month release cycle, and we'll see what everyone else, all the relevant stakeholders say. So I'll go into the document. I see that Changzhe has added an entry to the document with a link to the repo, which is super neat. They say to discuss further on GitHub or Slack. So I'm reading this out loud so that it's on the video, and anyone looking back can go have a look as well. I'll copy paste the link to the repo in the meeting note in the chat as well. So thank you for adding that. Great to have you join. Nice to see you. I don't know if there's anything more to discuss on that. So unless someone, did you have anything you wanted to say, Changzhe?
Yeah. My spoken English is a little difficult.
It's okay.
So I can talk about it at GitHub or Slack with you. Thank
Fair
you.
enough. Yeah. Then yeah, if anyone has any comments, GitHub or Slack is the place to go. That's great. Thank you for joining anyway. It must be difficult to join.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right. Did anyone else have anything else they wanted to discuss?
I could quickly say that Mail and I have been proceeding with the Google Season of Docs process. We're going to announce the successful candidate tomorrow. As contrary to what we wrote in the webpage for the project, we plan to announce today, but there's been a couple of delays, so we decided we'll wait till tomorrow and hopefully announce it then on cert-manager dev. And I've also I've begun the process of setting up an account where Google can transfer the funds for the project, and it's a system called Open Collective. So they manage the money on our behalf, and they'll manage all the invoices and the various fiddly bits for us. So that's good. I've opened that account, and once we have announced the candidate, we can publicize the successful candidate, and then we can request Google to transfer the funds to us. And the funds, we probably didn't mention it in the last community meeting, but we won the funding which we requested, which was for $12,000 over the course of a 3-month project with 3 extra volunteer stipends, which is money that we can allocate to people who assist the main technical writer in the effort to improving our documentation. So yeah, that was good news, and we're making progress with it. And all being well, we'll start the project on Monday, May the 16th.
Super cool. I'd never heard of Open Collective before. I'm looking at it like a neat. It's a neat learning about a new thing. And what was that? There's like some random interference there. Scared the life.
Sorry, that was me.
Oh, you sound normal now. I don't know what it was. Jumped out of my skin. Did you have something you want to say, Mael?
Yeah, I just want a bit of update on what's for anyone who will be at KubeCon or anyone actually. So we will have a printer because it is here. It is a Brother label printer QL800, and it works nicely. So here are some labels, but the goal is to have the goal is to print a receipt of the certificate. Maybe I could even print the whole certificate like this one. And yeah, so this is a QR code with the whole certificate with my name as the common name. And okay, so I don't know what I am doing right now, but I will have something working. I need to chat with Jake because he's working on the other side to create a CSR from a simple web page.
Cool. Super fun.
I hope we will have enough tape, and I hope it's going to work because it was expensive.
If we run out of tape, that sounds like a good problem to have because we've had a lot of people come into the stall then, right? That's
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing if that works out well. So I'm jealous. I would like to go to KubeCon as well, maybe next year.
Should we record this? Should we like film this when we do it? Like, do we have to?
Oh, you totally need
We
to take
like
some
make a
pictures.
short video of this in
Yeah.
action. I guess like you can
Oh,
just do it with a phone and.
Yeah. So we need to do this. We need to. I need to remember to ask someone to take a. Or I could do it. Actually, I will do it. Hopefully, I will remember, and then we can post it somewhere, maybe on the cert-manager channel.
Yeah. The cert-manager YouTube channel where people may be watching this video. something exciting for them to for us to link to afterwards. Yeah, that's super cool. I'm really looking forward to seeing how that turns out. I think it would be really fun for people. Was there anything else you wanted to say on that topic, or no? Anyone else got anything else you wanted to talk about?
Oh, well, I did add the CI flakes as it was my suggestion to default talking about those every time when we have like some free time at the end of dev meetings, because but at the moment, like, I don't really, I mean, I know what the latest flakes are, and I guess we kind of all know there are like two kinds. One is resource conflicts, the other one is timeouts. So it's like a matter of fixing those, and there was also like a small related issue which I think was raised in one of our other meetings about how we actually ensure that we don't release when there are red tests. I'm not sure if there was, if there was like an action at some point that we wanted to take, like that I guess could also go together with the policy update for releases that you talked about, actually. But yeah, at the moment, I don't see a point to go through CI flags. I mostly added it thinking that sometimes we have long failing tests that we actually don't notice that are failing. This is not the case right now because we do know why things are failing.
But you said in one of my PRs, which was not merging because of the flakiness, and the retest bot kept retesting it all weekend, and it never once passed. So it's like it's more than flakiness; it's just total failure.
Yeah, this. So this is like the other issue that I think it has, which is we have like two end-to-end tests now, and I think this is my assumption that when they both get triggered and are scheduled on the same node, one of them consumes so much resources that the other one doesn't have enough resources to operate properly. And like just haven't yet got to the point where I would like properly research it and make sure that we have some alerting for this setup and have like big enough nodes. There's like an issue that describes, like I think there is like a short-term fix where we should ensure that we have enough resources, and there's like a long-term fix where we should have some kind of monitoring so that we can we have some kind of way to see how much resources one job consumes, so we don't have to like SSH into nodes, and perhaps even have some alert when it consumes, when we can see that the request bumps up to like, I don't know, more than 50% of available resources on the node.
So maybe on the one PR that I was watching, the make-based end-to-end test had passed, and so the retest bot was only re-triggering the old Bazel end-to-end tests. But I suppose what you mean is that the retest bot on another PR was meanwhile triggering the make-based tests over and over again. And so the Bazel tests for one PR were clashing with the make-based tests for another PR and scheduled the same nodes.
That makes sense, I think. I would also like to remove that retest bot, by the way, because I don't see any value of it. I feel like when there are failures, we should actually check them, and it just keeps triggering tests that fail.
Yeah, probably. I agree with that. Or at least I'd like it if the retest bot actually eventually succeeded, but it never. It just seems to make things worse. So I agree. I think we should disable it.
Yeah, like theoretically we should. Sorry.
I'm just saying I agree as well.
I guess theoretically we shouldn't approve PRs that haven't already passed the test. So I'm not sure. Like.
That's a whole other kind of worms, right? Where like the way we approve and LGTM PRs needs like a unified approach across everything, and there's like definitely work to be done on that. But like PRs get approved just by virtue of one of us having raised it, right? Like they still need an LGTM to merge, but like if I raise a PR now on cert-manager, it will be approved because I'm the one who raised it. Which we might not want. I think we just need to sit down and sort of war game that and what we want it to look like, and then apply that to everything, and enforce that it remains the same on everything as well. At the moment, it's just a patchwork quilt of all these different ways of approving PRs. Removing the automated retry bot seems like a good action to come out of this if anyone's willing to take that. Or we just leave it as a comment.
That would be a very good thing to do right now, because we actually need to test some other changes that Richard and I have made on the testing repo. So I feel like this would be a good candidate.
Yeah,
so
to test,
one of us,
test the pre-submits and post-submits. Yeah.
So one of us could perhaps do it.
Anyone volunteer to do that?
Yeah, I'm happy to do it.
Cool.
I can be assigned to the action item.
Yeah. I don't think there's much point in adding an action item that doesn't have a name on it.
That's fair.
That's a really cool outcome, yeah. I hadn't really thought about how damaging that could be, but that could totally be. It can make everything worse, can't it? So sweet. As you said, there's probably not much worth in us going over the test grid as it is today, because it's being worked on so heavily, and it's not going to be valuable this time. Maybe next time, though.
Yeah.
Welcome, Josh, who joined in the middle of that discussion. Did you have anything you wanted to raise or anything?
Yeah.
No, not from my side. I don't think so.
Cool. Anyone else have anything else you wanted to talk about?
Any interesting things that people are excited about from Kubernetes 124? I've like half gone over the release notes, but not properly yet.
The
Oh.
disabling of beta features by default was interesting to me. I should read the blog, but I wonder what the motivation for that was. I found that quite curious.
That's a breaking change, right?
No, so only new introduced beta features will become disabled by default.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thing I'm not. It's like the Ethernet protocol. We wait a random amount of time until we retry and hope for the best.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Niall, you go first. What were you gonna say?
I don't know what. Oh, I'm not happy because 1.24 does not include one of the changes I was waiting for, which is command line completion for plugins for kubectl. It hasn't gone into 1.24, so still have to wait. Your turn.
Herbert, did you have something you want to say?
Well, now that Richard has linked the cap, I guess we can find it out there. I was like curious whether it was just like a side effect of Kubernetes being more like mature, because like I guess this means that features make it slower to be usable by like people and by integrations like us. But then I guess if there's less new features, then maybe that's fine. Although maybe being more mature doesn't mean that there's less new features, because they still will be doing something. I'm a little bit annoyed by it because there's this thing called common expression language that I was kind of looking forward for that to make it into lowest supported version by cert-manager, because we could use that in our CRDs and partially get rid of webhook. This is still in alpha, and so this means it will take even longer for it to actually be available.
Is it a validation format?
It's a support for common expression language to be used to validate the fields in custom resource definitions. So like a little bit smarter validation than the Open API validation. So basically most validations that we do currently in webhook would be possible to be defined directly in CRDs.
Yeah, I can see it. It's interesting. It's cross-field. You can do like interesting validation. How
Yeah,
does it,
you can access.
how can you express this in Open API?
No, it's not Open API. It's support, like common expression language is language of its own, and there is a support added in custom resource definitions for using common expression language expressions. So you can do like things like cross-field validation directly in CRD. So you could do things like check that the renew time on certificate is not renew before is not like the renew period is not longer than the expiry period, which at the moment we need webhook to do these kind of validations. Whereas when this will make into well, now not GA, I guess, then we maybe will actually even be able to get rid of validating webhook.
Oh yes, that's very nice because often we have to ship. For example, the cluster API has to ship a webhook just for these cross-field validations. Or no, sometimes you cannot do it with this common language thing. Anyways, but most of the time, people have to ship a webhook just because the Open API spec is too limiting. So yeah, that's a great thing.
I really need to look at the release notes for 1.24. I've not even glanced at them yet. I know it will be relevant to us in some capacity because there's a change relating to how tools like deep copy gen can be installed. Like they become module aware, and this is the first release of Kubernetes where that module awareness makes it into an official tagged like Go library, so we'll be able to change to using tags instead of pointing at a commit chart on the master branch for when we install those in our make tools. But that stuff isn't merged yet in make, so it isn't even raised as a PI yet in make, so it's down the road, but it will improve that when it comes. I had not a lot of fun trying to work that stuff out when I looked into this last. So yeah.
Wait, does it mean Clan Go also gets proper versioning?
I'm not willing to go that far. Some tools gain module awareness in 124,
Okay.
if I recall correctly. That's the most I'm willing to commit to saying in a recorded video.
Thanks.
Anything else on Kubernetes 124? Anyone? General silence. Cool. We are at the end of the agenda. Was there anything else that anyone wanted to raise, talk about? People scratching their heads. I'm hearing nothing, so I'm going to call it, because I've got a pizza in the fridge and I'm really looking forward to it. So thank you everyone that joined the meeting proper. Thank you to anyone that chooses to watch this on YouTube afterwards. Great to see everyone. We'll have another one in 2 weeks, and have a nice Star Wars day.
Wait, in 2 weeks, that's going to be KubeCon. How do we do this?
Maybe it'll be partially in person,
Why
or it'll just be
KubeCon?
cancelled.
Oh, yeah, probably cancel. But we
Yeah.
could do it live.
Yeah, maybe.
It's at 6 p.m. So I'm assuming we won't have anything.
Yeah, maybe not. But who knows?
We could do it.
I'll just be here on my own, which would be fun. No, actually, me and whoever else turns up.
Yeah, maybe.
Talking probably, right?
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Ash.
Cool.
Cheerio,
Yep.
everyone.
I'll stop the recording.
See you.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.